Well, welcome to the Lowell Area Historical Museum's Oral History Project, interviews with Lowell community members. Today is Friday, January 24th, 2025, and we are here north of Lowell visiting with Jerry and Dave Wisner on their family dairy farm to learn more about the Wisner family and the extraordinary story of their dad, Allen Wisner, who was a P-38 pilot during World War II. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm glad to be here in this beautiful setting with the creek running through it and birds flying and reminiscing some old stories. So I want to get everything started with a backstory to talk about your ancestors. Let's kind of find out where the Wisners came from. I know one came from Bern, Switzerland, which is where my grandfather came from. Was your
grandmother? Our grandmother. That was Marie Wisner.
Okay.
Her name was Rhine.
All right.
Her last name was Rhine, R-H-Y-N. She came from the Bern, Switzerland area.
Yeah.
Yes. Her parents' name was Heim, H-E-I-M.
Okay.
And her uncle.
Her mother
was Rosetta Heim Rhine. And the Heim was that Heim Street that crosses Lincoln Lake, just south of McPherson.
Okay.
That was my grandma's uncle.
Oh, my goodness.
That was Edo Heim, and that's my grandma Marie Wisner's uncle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, my great-grandmother, supposedly Magdalena Ersch, who married, was Croft, but she was an Ersch first, supposedly had a farm right around that area, too, around 2 Mile on Lincoln Lake, somewhere on Downs. Around Downs Lake in that
I
area.
know that they had property because that's what it was the Ersches that used to move cattle through Lowell.
Yeah.
They brought them up here in the summer, took them back to the farm, and
back when they walked them
for winter. They walked them right through town.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah. Some great stories there.
Yeah.
So why do you think they came over here? Was their family earlier came over that said, come on over, like with Magdalena?
Yes, the Rhines came in 1909.
Okay.
That was my grandma. She was only 11 years old.
Yes.
And they were just about the last Swiss family that came over. A whole bunch of the Swiss started coming in about
Ross.
Yes,
Wetbox,
all of
Cross.
like about 1870, something like that, and through the 80s and 90s.
Yep.
And they settled in Lowell. Everybody has always told me it was because Lowell was very similar in climate to where they came from around Bern, and the hills and a lot of creeks, and so that was very similar. Yeah, and they came here. So my great-grandparents just came because all their friends were here.
Right.
And family.
And family, yeah. All of my great-grandma's sisters and brother, Ed Heim, they were already here in Lowell.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's why they came.
That's what was with my part heritage too. Was they knew it was good land. It was good land.
That was Grandma. Grandpa, his family had been here for.
They came over.
Right.
Yeah, we're not sure back beyond. 3 generations before us.
7 generations back.
Well, okay.
Was a Swiss was Johann Wisner. Was from Lake Constance in Switzerland.
Okay.
And he came in 1709 to the United States, and he was a mercenary in a Swiss. He was a Swiss mercenary soldier, and his unit fought for the King of England in the Queen Anne's War. I believe that's right. It was the Queen Anne's War. Yeah, and they were all paid in land in the United States because that was before the Revolution and it belonged to England. Right. And the King of England paid those soldiers that fought for him in land. Yeah, and he was just across the Hudson River from New York City. He got a little bit of land. Yeah.
And then that ended up, Henry was a descendant of his, right?
Right.
Henry, and what town is that in New York? That where there's a statue to Henry Wisner.
Yeah, I believe it's Warwick, New York.
Or it's right near
Yeah.
New York.
There is a Wisner, New York, a little town.
There's a lot
But-
of Wisners.
Yeah.
But this Wisner, Henry Wisner, you have a
He
picture
actually
signed the Declaration.
he signed the original Declaration of Independence right under George Washington's name.
Wow.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
a picture
Henry
of that.
Wisner.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
But then what?
But then that was the original copy, and it was like the scratched on paper.
Yeah.
And then when they did it, he was up in
Albany.
West Point,
Oh.
New York.
Oh,
Yeah, he's the
Okay.
one that built the ramparts. I believe that's what they're called, the ramps
Yeah.
that they put the cannons on.
Oh, my goodness.
On the point at West Point. He built those. Yeah. And then he also owned some caves where they got bat poop, which is what they made the gunpowder out of back then. Was the bat guano, I believe it's called. Yeah. He owned a bunch of caves. And so he was running around making gunpowder for the Continental Army.
but
Yeah,
he was
so-
doing that when they signed the
When they
final.
signed the
so
final-
his name is not on
His name is on the but
the real
I've
Declaration of
seen
Independence. Yeah.
photocopies of the original where they said we're screw you,
Yeah,
England.
we're doing it.
Yeah, and he was right there underneath
Oh, my gosh.
underneath George
what a
Washington.
great-
And that's that many generations, and then
Yeah, he's,
you know how it came.
and they migrated through western New York, and that was pine lumber industry in western
yeah.
New York, and that was all depleted by 1850, and then all those guys came to Michigan following the
depleted arm.
yeah, and
Our
then depleted
beautiful
it.
white pine.
Yeah, took it all, every bit of it.
Down
Yep.
the Flat River, Grand River,
Yep,
to Chicago, and away. it
Bunch
went,
of them
yeah.
got rich.
So
Well, that's
by,
a great story.
So
there.
by 1850, Will's dad was living out.
in New York. Yep.
Well, but he had moved here by
1857, he came to Michigan.
and that's when was Will born? That's our great.
1864, I believe.
And he lived on.
He first went to Reading, Michigan.
That was Will's
And
father.
That's Will's father.
And what's his name?
C.D.
C.D.
Cornelius Du Bois Wisner.
Cornelius.
Yeah,
Great
and
name.
they lived in Reading, and then they moved to Stanton, following the lumber,
Oh, wow.
because lumber was,
Oh,
the
yeah,
pines.
It's huge.
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
But by the time Will was born, he lived on that farm that Stewart's own now, I believe. It's the road that
Right.
ends up at
Dick Stewart's son,
it's the
Conklin Road.
Conklin Road.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
my
the
My-
road that goes out, used to go to Jimmy's Grill, just south of there. So Grandpa Will was born in that farmhouse.
no.
Oh, Grandpa Otto.
Otto was
Grandpa-
born. Will ran the farm for Royce Story.
Okay, now you get that.
Okay, Royce Story owned all that land out there. He was a huge farmer. One of his sons, I believe, was George Story, the
Fuel guy.
fuel guy
oil
in Lowell.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
Story and Thorn.
yeah,
All right. Was
That's-
Royce the guy that had the car dealership too?
That
Royce
had to
Story?
be down the generation or two.
Maybe.
yeah, it was the
'Cause
same family.
This Royce Story would have been born in the mid 18 or
Yeah.
living in the
Yeah,
1800s.
and then Otto was born out there.
So Otto was born in that farmhouse on Conklin Road, and then
His-
22 years later, our dad was born in a house across the road on Conklin Street,
yeah.
Conklin Road out there.
Well, I guess we don't need
Okay.
to go into any far out earlier ancestry stories. We've already gone back to the 1700s, which was fantastic. So your family, your dad, your mom, children. What did you guys say? 2 brothers, 2 sisters.
We have
What's
2
your-
sisters.
2. You had 4.
Yeah, there's 4 of us in our
and
family.
they
Yep.
were,
Carol and Lois.
Carol's the oldest, then Lois, then
and
him.
me.
and you're the baby.
I'm the
He's
baby
the
by
biggest one
by
on the
5
box,
years.
too.
Yeah. Now, I can't for the life of me remember who it was, but shortly after Dad died, it was an old guy in the neighborhood, and we were talking about my folks and the family. Look at him roll his eyes. And that old guy said to me, he said, well, you know how it's coming. He says, well, you know your brother was a mistake. Your dad told me that. Your brother was a mistake. And I said,
I've heard that from my big brother my whole life.
well, he is 5 years younger than me. See, and the three of us, my two sisters and me, we were 3 years apart. Boom, boom, boom. 46, 47, and 49. We were born. And then 54, along comes David. And this old neighbor said to me, he said, well, you know your brother was a mistake. Your dad told me that.
Oh,
that's
big story.
So you said I'm the biggest one, which I am in our family. And, well, our mother, her heritage, she came from the Netherlands, or her family.
Okay, yeah.
They're all Dutch.
They're all Dutch.
And her dad was kind of a tall guy.
Yep.
But when you look at our family, our dad was
He was
5'10".
5'10"
At the most.
And Mom was that tall.
About, yeah.
But Grandpa wasn't that tall. He was more like
Grandpa Otto?
5'8".
8? Yeah, 7 or 8.
But Grandma Marie
Was a little short.
5'3" probably.
Yeah.
And we talk about that, and nothing against short people or tall people. But Molly has looked up when they went to Ellis Island and found where the Rhines came through Ellis Island. Grandpa Jake Rhine, who was Marie's father, who we've already talked about,
okay.
he was 4'10",
Yeah.
and Rosetta was 4'11".
Wow.
So go figure how 3 generations how I got to be 6'1".
That's because you were a mistake.
Well, my mother's side, I'll take the credit from my mother's side.
How about early
She
years
never
growing
called
up?
me a mistake.
How about early years growing up here? You got any memories out here on the dairy farm where your dad was running it, where you're out and baling hay,
Well,
and throwing hay in the barn?
I remember milking the cows. We had a stanchion barn with
10 stanchions.
stanchions.
We had 15 cows and we had to switch and put the second 5, were called the second batch.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that was called the first batch and the second
They'd
batch.
come in, and it was an old little piston pump thing that
Yeah,
made the
little
vacuum.
tiny, just run with a little electric motor.
That set up, turn that on, boop, 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 boop,
Yep.
boop, and it would make vacuum, and that's where the milk went into a can by the cow.
So in the earlier days, though, did your dad do the old milk?
No.
by
He
hand?
never
My
did.
dad
Never.
did up at Highland Hill Dairy.
No.
He had this milk.
It was 47 when he bought the farm, and then it was a year or two before he got going with the dairy. Yeah, and he always had that vacuum.
So I think you guys went from he bought what, 43 acres if I remember right, was it, or 50 acres, something like that?
93.
Okay, and then you guys ended up expanding or not? Did
Yeah,
you guys make
Dad bought another
And then
farm.
Dad bought 2 more farms, the 2 Ford
really?
farms. Yeah,
all right in the
right next door. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but we bought on Ashley.
Oh,
he
yeah.
added that first. And all the time we were growing up, it was 136 acres.
Okay.
Right, so the 96 and what was
93 and
what was
no,
on
it was
Ashley?
120 up there on Ashley.
Okay, so it was two
2 something.
220, 230. That was our farm until
That farm was from a Lowell family. That was,
Davis.
yeah.
Well, originally.
Originally it was Robert Davis, and he was called Burr Davis, but the relatives of theirs ended up by it. That was Lou Fritz. Lou and Iva Fritz were and their son was Steve Fritz. Okay. He graduated from Lowell in 1960. Okay. He's still alive. We still see him. Yeah.
Name sounds familiar. Yeah.
Steve Fritz.
Yeah.
Yeah, but his dad died in 1953. That was, and then my dad bought it from his mom. Yeah. Steve
So did
Fritz
you do the old days of baling and the hay?
Gosh.
We did that for a long time.
Oh.
Well, I used to do it for Delbert. You know, Delbert Croft. I used to go over and help him
Oh.
when I was a kid. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Made the whole $1.50 an hour.
When I got out of high school, I went to work with Dad, and then 6 years later, he joined us.
Okay.
So then there was Jerry and Dave and Dad, our Wisner partnership, and then shortly after that, in the '60s, Dad had built a milking parlor where we had a pipeline and milked cows that way. Then by 1980, we built a bigger barn with a much more modern, and we had milked 100 cows for 20 years until we went out of business.
So you guys rotated weekends and that, so you didn't have to do the 7
At
7?
first, we worked
first,
7 days a week.
We just
Oh, I
worked every day.
And all the time we were growing up, Dad had to be there
Oh, I know.
7 days a week.
About 14 times
for
a week.
20
Yep.
years until there was a time when my sisters were teenagers, and Grandpa Otto came up and helped them because Dad took you to camp or something.
Yeah.
And Lois and Carol and Grandpa Otto milked the cows for a few days. Well, Mom and Dad and I went to the UP and took him to camp and then came back. Other than that, Dad was there twice a day. And
Any great memories in the barn or running around in the haystacks and making tunnels with the bales?
Why-
And all, like
why am I going to be
house?
why am I going to be the butt of all these jokes? Because you're going to tell them about the barn was half full of hay, but there's beams that are up further than that. 8 feet above where the hay is, and there's a rope that they used to
You always
bring.
had to have a rope.
They
Right.
used to bring the hay in
and
at
pull
the
it
end
up
of,
and
the end of the
loose
barn,
it.
and it had a rope in the
Yeah, we were swinging on it.
We swang from one beam. Well, they did. From one beam, swung over and landed on the
I
other
was
beam.
probably about
We're
10 or
fearless
11.
kids.
He was probably 5 or 6.
I was 5. So I was going to try it. Tim Nelson ended up being our brother-in-law. His 2 younger brothers were there. So it was these, Jerry, and then John was a little younger, and Phil was a little older than me, and me. So they were swinging, and I wanted to do it. So I did.
He swung across and fell.
I passed out.
It knocked him out. Yeah. And we all thought he was dead.
So he ran to the house.
Got Mom.
Mom,
David's
David's dead.
David got killed in the barn. Oh gosh. Oh, my
She
mom.
came out, my mother, who never lost her temper. She was the sweetest lady. He always said, she came out and said, "You Nelson boys go home."
Yeah, she lost her temper. Yep.
That was the only.
And then
Mom never lost her temper.
Yeah.
Okay, we've kind of covered the farm a little bit. I think, we just talked about the farm. How about your farm was on the old city of Mosley back in the...
Right.
So you have some stories about Mosley, I know, because, like I said, my grandmother worked in Mosley when she came over here, and my grandfather, Fred Croft, lived in the Lally House on Murray Lake and farmed that and took his cows over to the island. He walked the cows across and did all that thing. So my grandfather met my grandmother in the Mosley store. That's how those two got together and then got married, and that's why I'm here.
I'll be darned.
I don't know about you.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Jake Ryan, our great grandpa, he worked at that farm that was right behind the depot, which was back then was Wingard, John O. Wingard.
Okay.
My great grandpa worked for him for a while when they first came to America in 1909.
Mm-hmm.
And then my grandma's brother, they called him Jakey Ryan, he married Ruth Mitchell. She lived in that, what was the hotel there in Mosley.
There was a hotel in Mosley.
That was the, Onan House, which is still there.
It's the house
that was a hotel.
Jake Collier owns it now.
Oh, okay. It's right across from the fruit storage.
Okay.
That was a hotel way back. But Ruth Mitchell, her family lived there, and our great uncle married her.
Okay.
Yeah, because they met. Yeah, and
Wow.
the great grandpa worked at the Wingard farm right across the road.
Because we talked about Heim Street, that's where Grandma, when she was a little girl, they moved to.
Well,
And she moved into a house that Crofts lived in,
it was
right?
it was a log cabin, and I believe Fred Croft owned it.
Maybe, I don't know. That might
There's a
have heard
10-acre piece, yeah, and of course that was in 1909. My great grandparents lived there with my grandma, and that's when they worked in Mosley.
Okay.
Then, not too long after that, Howard Croft lived there
Oh, okay.
because
No.
his father was Godfrey
Okay.
Croft, and I believe Fred was his brother. I believe.
No, Fred. No, Fred was John Croft, who it was Bernard Croft's dad. So it was
Okay.
John Croft, Fred Croft, and then William.
Okay.
Well, Godfrey
that-
had,
Well,
to, Godfrey
okay,
had
there-
to be a.
There was a Fred Croft that owned that 10-acre piece that's still there.
I don't know. I don't.
What's
remember.
it? Tom Scheidel.
Scheidel.
Scheidel lives there now.
I've never heard that story before because he leased from Lally. He leased the Lally
Oh.
house and the acreage,
Okay.
and then he had a chance to buy Murray
Well-
Lake in 1922 for $7,000 and 100 acres for $7,000.
Isn't that crazy?
And they never
Well,
did catch
Howard-
it.
Well, he
Howard
knows
Croft-
that Howard Croft.
Howard Croft told me that Fred Croft owned that log cabin there on Lincoln Lake,
And Howard lived there.
and Howard lived there the first year of his life.
Maybe, but I don't ever remember hearing that story. But unless there was another, there was Fred Senior.
Well, that might be who it was.
Fred Senior and was my grandfather's dad. He was part of that. He farmed that with my grandfather.
Well, I bet it
So
was
maybe it was
him.
Fred
There
Senior.
was Howard told me it was Fred Croft owned that 10
it had to
acres
be
in the
Fred.
log cabin.
Had to be Fred
And
Senior.
Morris Blazo lived there after Howard Croft lived there. You know Morris, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, he lived there.
Oh.
And then the log cabin burned down in 1939. And then they rebuilt that building that's there now
Yep.
and ended up eventually Tom Scheidel and his wife Florence.
Yeah, they're both passed
Kaminsky.
away now.
Florence is alive, I
Okay,
think.
sorry.
Yeah.
So can
But-
you remember maybe stories? So we had a hotel in Mosley.
Yep.
We had the train depot. We had a grocery store. And
Yeah.
we had the Jakeway
Stockyard.
Stockyard, yeah, the
Oh.
Jakeway Stockyard. Jakeway owned most of
Okay.
of Mosley at that time, and I believe that Runciman then bought a lot from Jakeway. Isn't that how that worked in
I
Lowell?
think that's
Yeah, and that's the same way in Mosley.
yeah.
Yeah, Jakeway, his daughter married Francisco. That's Blanche Francisco.
Okay, yep.
Yep, Jakeway. Jakeway got killed in a car accident in Lowell, right? Yeah. Yeah, that was the guy. Then Runciman bought a bunch of his stuff from Jakeway in Lowell and in Mosley. Yeah.
And then you said also that they had a bean separator, or they
That was the building.
That was the building.
Well, that was the building in front of where the stockyard, or maybe
Yeah.
where the stockyard was.
Yeah.
Because the stockyard
Stockyard
was
was-
there by 1900 around
So
then,
was the
right?
stockyard sheep, cattle, both, or what was it?
There were sheep in it when
Oh,
the
really?
pitcher, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they loaded them on the train cars
Yeah,
there,
and
on
away
that
they went.
siding, and away they went. Before that, they loaded lumber there
Yeah.
on the siding. Yeah.
So-
In front of that, behind where the train depot was, you've got a picture of that depot.
Yeah.
Behind that, there was a building there, like an
It
old
was Runciman's
an
building.
old factory building that had bean treadle sorting machines in it. And when I was a kid,
When we were kids,
we'd go in there and
Run those old-
You be careful going around in those old buildings because they were starting
yeah.
to fall down. We'd run like a treadle sewing machine, and beans would come out of the thing. How that happened that the rats hadn't eaten those beans over the last 50 years, I don't know, but there were soybeans
Well,
came out of there.
yeah, okay. Now, south of 4 Mile Road, right behind the hotel,
Okay.
there was a elevator. That was all standing.
That building was all standing
when
also.
him and I were kids, because we used to go rabbit hunting over there,
Yeah.
and the beagles would go in the basement of that old building and chase rabbits out. Yeah, that has fallen down since then. That was the elevator. It was 2-story.
Was that right by the railroad tracks then? The silos had these that were easy loading and out, or was it?
Okay, there was an extension of the railroad that came up,
Oh.
and it went right past the fruit storage, which was originally the Mosley Brothers fruit storage. That's who built that town.
What Rashes own now.
Right.
Yes.
That then a man named Willoughby bought that storage from the Mosley Brothers long time back. Yeah. And that railroad siding went across 4 Mile Road and dodged the hotel and went back to the old elevator back in there.
But not in your time, did it?
No,
Because I don't
but-
remember that.
but the elevator was there,
Right,
standing.
the elevator
And
was standing.
the railroad stopped at 4 Mile,
But sometime
but
in,
you could see the old. They just covered it with gravel on 4 Mile Road. That's still under there.
I'm surprised at that. Wow.
Yeah, I could show you where that railroad siding went back to the old elevator someday. Yeah, they built that all up.
yeah, there's a mound thing that you
Yeah.
could see where it went.
Went back to the elevator.
So,
Well,
but there were more buildings than that because
There were lots.
There were
It was a little
4 or 5 foundations still there when we were kids.
Yeah.
And if you go out to Lincoln Lake Road, which is a little over a quarter mile to the east of downtown Mosley, that was a creamery.
Right, that was a creamery there. Yeah, but they moved the grocery store from Mosley. They put it on logs and pulled it with horses. Yeah, Howard Croft saw that happen. The guy's name was Keach that owned that. And because that was like in the 30s, the trucking took over and the railroads were starting to die and Mosley was dying. Yeah, so Keach, he picked that building up, put it on logs, and rolled it up 4 Mile Road to the corner of 4 Mile and
That's
Lincoln
what's
Lake.
so amazing about that whole area. You had Mosley
And
Allen.
Alton.
which was a mile, not even a mile
Right.
apart from each other, and then you had Fallisburg,
Right,
and then you had Lowell, and Lowell was lucked out and got the railroad, and Mosley and Elton
they all
and
died.
Fallisburg all
Well, Alton was a village before the railroad came through in about 1910 or 11.
No,
Alton was a little settled village.
yeah, but the railroad was built in 1900.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the railroad came through, they wanted to put a depot and a siding
At Elton, they were,
at Alton. They wanted to do it at Alton there, and they couldn't because that's all a grade. They could not stop the
it.
train on a grade and then start it up
That's
again.
why they didn't get it.
So Alton did not get the siding, and Mosley got the siding. And then that siding went all the way up past
past Ashley.
Past Ashley.
It's almost,
It was almost a mile of
almost
siding.
a mile siding.
Yeah, and so then they put the depot in Mosley.
And that's when the town really
That's when the town of Mosley,
Mosley
took off.
took off.
Yeah, there was a Grange Hall there
Yeah.
on the south
So
side.
I heard at one time that Ken Wettenbach told me there was a blacksmith shop right next to the church where the cemetery is. You ever hear?
Yes.
Because he's dug up pieces and parts.
Yes.
Of it. So there's a blacksmith shop, the church.
Yes, there was a
In-
complete village there
at Elton.
in Alton.
Yeah.
There was
There's
somebody
an ice house supposedly across the
right
where-
in the pond.
their pond there. They dug
Yeah.
ice out and then they took it
Right.
across to the ice house.
That's
across the
right.
street.
Yeah, and there was a furniture factory
Really?
upstream in that creek. Yeah, the old dam is still there.
Really?
The footing for the dam. on Koning's farm, about 3/4 of the way between Lincoln Lake and
Alden Nash.
Alden Nash, on 3 Mile. Yeah, there's an old dam foundation.
Well, I'll tell you what. This summer we got to get you two in the car, and I want to drive around.
I can
and-
show you
and
right where
start
the driveway is.
This would be great for Mosley, and yeah.
Yeah,
it'd be
there was
fun
a
to be able
furniture
to-
factory
yeah.
there.
Wow.
And I think that I read one time it was the same guy that had the furniture factory down there at Seguin. I think it was him.
Well,
But it was a-
KOPF had the
Right.
furniture
I
factory.
think it was him. I think, but
He
I'm
was-
not
he
positive.
was a big deal. He had-
Yeah.
And his factory was on the
Was
on
on-
the side of Grand River.
On that little creek.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That was Seguin,
Yeah.
right?
And he built 2 of the big buildings there in Lowell. The two of those 3-story
Yeah.
buildings he built. So.
Okay. Well, that.
There was one story I forgot. We're in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Grandma lived just south of there, and she went to the Waters School
Yep.
when in 3rd grade when she moved here.
Which was where the big hill used to
The
be.
big hill
Big
used
Hill.
to be where McPherson hits.
Right.
And you look at that, it's still a school building that people, it's a house now,
Yep.
but you could tell it was a school building.
What was that hill called?
Waters Hill.
Hill.
What the big hill? When we
Yeah,
were
Waters
kids?
Hill.
And then when the new road went through, they knocked it way down.
Nobody calls it Waters Hill anymore.
It's not a big, but it was a
But
big
it was
steep hill.
because it
when-
was the Waters School.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was somebody there named Waters that named the school and the hill after
So
them.
the Waters was the closest one? There wasn't the one on the corner of,
No, there was a school in Alton, and there was a school in Mosley,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
a school at Waters.
right. And
If
on the
there
corner
was-
on 5 Mile in Murray Lake too, Murray Lake?
Talbot
was
School.
Talbot School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
But
all over.
yeah.
the
when
place.
Grandma
Right.
when Grandma came here from Switzerland, they took the train up to because the train went right behind where they were going to live, right?
Oh, wow.
Somebody in the family was squabbling, so some of the people,
Right. My
When-
grandma and her mother, Rosetta Ryan, rode on either the train or the horse and buggy, and the Grandpa Jake and the
but somebody there went on one of those pump
Oh.
cars. Grandma told us that she rode on that to get up to where they
Okay.
live
Oh,
on one of
yes.
those, hand.
yeah, somebody took the train and the other 2 took the horses because the family was feuding.
It wasn't
about something.
It wasn't our relatives. I mean, not our parents or grandparents that were feuding. It was somebody else in the family, so they wouldn't take them all together.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to do that this summer.
Okay.
We'll go around with it,
But-
and we'll record all these spots and talk about
So
it.
Grandma-
Because you guys know that. You
So
know
Grandma
this.
went to 3rd grade there,
In Waters
and
School.
she only spoke Swiss.
No, German.
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 Yeah.
From Switzerland, she spoke German, but she didn't know any English, and she learned. And her parents only spoke German.
So did they say Wednesday when she said Wednesday? Did she go Wednesday?
She didn't. She
'Cause
did
Marie
not.
did.
Not no. But in 3rd grade, she sat next to another girl, and she said, "That's how I learned English. Was
Right.
just talking to that,
She went-
learning
Good
from."
stories.
She lived with that family that whole 3rd grade.
Oh.
And that's on Falsburg Road. I know
Yeah.
the house.
Yeah.
I know which old farmhouse it is. She lived there
Okay.
for that whole school year so that she would learn English.
Oh,
That's
we
the
gotta
only
do
way
that.
she knew English.
And she told me
Yep.
when she was in her 90s, she said, "I still do math
in
in German."
Yeah.
She said, "If I have a math problem to do in my
said
head,
the
I'm."
answer comes in German,
Wow.
and then I have to convert the answer to English, and then I can put it
She
down.
told us that. She told me that when she was
Yep.
in her 90s.
Okay. Well, we're going to do
Go
that
ahead.
this summer.
Okay.
We'll drive around. We'll stop at all these spots, and then you can talk
Okay.
about them. And then we can try to with Luann, Blaubeck. She's the head. She knows a lot of this stuff. I bet she'd love to have. And, wow, this is fantastic. I'm having fun here. All right. So Mosley, we talked about, and the main reason we're here is because of their dad, who was a P-38 fighter pilot in the 82nd Fighter Group and in the 95th Squadron, who were known as the Boneheads.
You got it right there.
I forgot. There it is. They were known as the Dead Bones.
The dead.
And when you look at the museum site, when we get this all pulled together, you'll get to see the insignia they have. Their motto was "Death with Finesse," and he was in the 82nd Fighter Group. He was the 95th Squadron. In the 82nd, there was the 95th Squadron, the 96th Squadron, and the 97th Squadron. Now, there will be another major video on this that was done by a very professional group, not us just having fun here today, which is probably more fun anyway. But he tells the entire story. He was shot down on his 15th mission over Slovakia, or on the way to Austria. Him and a partner, Ray Allen. Ray Allen plane didn't make it. He went into a swamp and he perished, but their dad survived. And we'll kind of let you guys, we're just going to do a quick summary of it because you'll be able to see the full video of him telling the story from the time he flipped over his plane to bail out, landing on a roof, to going to a fire department for help, to the partisans hiding him in the hills of Slovakia for almost a year, in and out, living in a chicken coop, in a barn, and his journey to get out once the Russians came in.
Right.
Took him. It's an amazing story. So you got to make sure you see that piece because it's for us to even. He tells it so perfectly, and he talks about one of my favorite things when I listen to the video is when his plane was hit. At P-38, you have to flip it upside down because the P-38 has a double wing and a tail piece across it. So if you try to come out with it up, you'll get cut in half. You don't make it.
He thinks that's what happened.
Yeah.
He thinks he hit that.
Oh, he did.
He didn't.
Because he says in the video that he turned it what he thought almost.
He does not know for sure if he flipped it or not. He knew he was supposed to, but he said all of a sudden the plane was all on fire. He said it was fire everywhere. That's how he got his face all burned.
It's black underneath his eyes is from that, right?
It was, yeah. He had rings when we were kids.
Yeah,
he looked like a coon.
Very noticeable.
Yeah, very noticeable.
They kind of disappeared over
Now you say that. When I remember seeing him as a kid, they were very dark underneath.
Yeah, he had rings like he had a coon.
Got burned around his goggles.
Yeah, and he said, I don't really know. I knew I was supposed to flip it over, and he thought that's how he broke his back. Was he didn't flip it over because he said, I know the last thing I remember is the whole thing's on fire and she's going to blow up. And he got out, and the next thing he knew, he was in the fire station on the ground. So he doesn't know what happened.
He said he remembers, the only thing he remembers is saying these three things. Lord help me, Judy, I'll be all right, which was his wife.
Our mom.
Nickname.
Judy was their little code or something.
They were Jake and Judy.
Because his middle name was Jake. So
after his grandpa.
All right.
He was Alan Jacob, and there was no Judy to her, but there was a cartoon thing on the radio, and we never knew that. I first have to say this whole story. All that video, if you watch it, Dad's story, Jerry and I, we never knew
any of that.
Anything. He never talked.
We knew Dad was a P-38 pilot. He was shot down, and he was a prisoner of war, and then he got out. When we'd ask him questions growing up, finally we quit asking questions because he didn't want to talk about it.
Well, when I came over today, I told him I found his insignia for his patchy thing, and you guys.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen that insignia before.
Death with Finesse and
I never.
Bones, and they never said anything.
Well, that's the way it was. We were in the dark about Dad being a war hero. That he didn't like to be called. He didn't want to be called that, and I think maybe that was because of Ray Allen, partly.
Yeah.
Because in 1995, he got a phone call at home, and somebody asked on a Thursday, and someone asked him, "Is this Allen Wisner?" "Yeah." "Did you fly P-38 in World War II?" And he was like, "Yeah." What's this call about? "Could you be at Springfield, Illinois on Saturday for Ray Allen's memorial. And I'll tell you, he said that's probably the most emotional day of his life. And when he talked about it, because he had gone to that base it's in down south.
Southern Italy.
No. A couple times to look at the Army books about Ray Allen, because he never knew what happened to Ray Allen. Ray's family never knew for sure.
No, he was just classified missing in action.
Ray Allen was missing in action, presumed dead. He went and looked at the Army book records in Alabama.
Never found anything.
And it still said, like 10 years before this happened,
missing in
action, presumed dead. He got this phone call and had, right out of the blue on Thursday, can you be in Springfield for a memorial service? Yep. So that's where, and I tell people, before that, Dad would not talk about it.
Wouldn't talk about it.
And after that day,
he wouldn't shut him up. You couldn't shut him up.
He loved to talk about it, which thank the Lord he did, because we wouldn't know this story if that hadn't happened.
That video is so important. So it's like an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 30 minutes, but it's such a great story.
He does cover, he covers the whole thing.
All the way from
really
his training, all the way to, and his journey to get out and back home is just
unbelievable.
Story. Anyway, he flew that 15th mission. That mission he escorted 600 B-17 bombers. He was escorting.
Right.
And then there was 200 fighter planes, P-38s, and probably some other P-41s, whatever they were.
24s, weren't they?
24s,
yeah. They were escorting the bombers,
But the German planes come out, there was just overwhelmed.
Well, I think when we were over there, somebody said that day they figured there were 1,400 planes in the air over Europe between the two sides.
So he landed on a roof, real quick.
Parachute.
He rolled off, and the first thing he can remember from that time is morphine. Somebody said morphine, and the local fire department in the city came over, took him over to the fire station, got him mended up a little bit, good enough to get him to a hospital, and then from that time, some partisans took a hold of him and they moved him around the area to keep him safe till the Russians came in, and then he went into the town and got okay, and then they went through, the cities he went to were to get out of town.
Unreal.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was a ton of places he went. Anyway, it's a great story, so don't miss it. The one thing I want to get into that we don't have a lot of details on, in 2001, this guy went back with your dad and visited all the people that
Mom and Dad and my wife Catherine and I. And
I'll let you tell
this was after 95, Dad, I think the guys from Slovakia had arranged. The guys from Slovakia dug up Ray Allen's bones, his plane. They excavated it. There's actually, we went to places where Ray Allen's parachute is in a museum. And they found bones in that plane. They sent them to Hawaii, and for some reason, nobody did anything with them for a couple years. They couldn't do anything when Russia was in Slovakia.
It was when USSR collapsed.
When the wall came down, and then they could start excavating these sites. And those guys, they have a monument every place in that country where they know someone died. So they wanted Dad to come over there because they were having pilots that they could find that they knew the story of. They were escorting them, and they did a fantastic job. They wanted Dad to come, and I think that because my grandmother was in her 90s and in a nursing home, Dad didn't want to go. Like he thought, well, if I plan a trip and Grandma dies, that's not going to work. So he put it off until 2001. So Grandma had passed away. We started planning a 2-week trip to Slovakia. We had it all planned for October of 2001, and 2 weeks before we were to go, 911 happened.
Oh.
and so the airports were a lot of fun to go through on that trip, but we got there, and it couldn't have been, it was we haven't traveled a lot, but for anybody it would be the vacation of a lifetime to go with Mom and Dad. And we went to every place that Dad remembered in Slovakia. Jan, the main guy that took us around, they were just so incredibly, where do you want to go? And I was in that hospital in Bratislava. We went to the hospital and looked around, did what we could, and
they drove you out to where the chicken coop you stayed.
Yep, we went. We went up. We went to Bratislava to the hospital. We went to the courtyard where he fell on the roof, and they knew where that was because
I saw that.
When Dad was shot down, he was 24.
The kid saw him come down in his parachute and land on that roof, was 14 years old. So now Dad's 80, 81, and this guy's 71. Jan arranged for that man to meet us in that courtyard, and he didn't speak a word of English, and of course we didn't speak any Slovak, but those two were going back and forth. They saw Dad parachute land on the roof, and he rolled off the roof and fell in the courtyard, and the fire department was right across the street. So we got to go to that courtyard. You talk about emotional, So we went there. Then they took us out to the town where they knew his plane had landed in a field out there. We went out to the field, took metal detectors, and we found scraps because when the planes went in, it went in the ground and dug a furrow 5 feet deep maybe, and parts of it were buried. That the Germans they salvaged what aluminum they could, and the rest of it they just covered it up. And then the Russians wouldn't let anybody do anything with it until when these guys started working after 1989. They went out and dug the site all up with backhoes. They have the gun. Frank has that gun in his apartment from Dad's 50 millimeter. Yeah, they have everything.
It's all shined up like a brand new gun.
And you also got pictures with him standing with a piece of the propeller.
One of the guys has a museum in his a wannabe museum in his yard. I don't know what's happened to that stuff here 25 years later. Because
they had the whole plane pieces, all the big pieces,
and they had pieces from.
I saw the hydraulic cooler reservoir that had the serial number from Dad's airplane, and they had the documents from the U.S. Army / Air Force that was Dad's airplane, and there's that hydraulic cooler.
All the plane parts had the serial number on them. So when they dug that, they knew the propeller was from Dad's plane because it had that serial number, and they knew what plane he was flying.
I also saw some pictures when I was digging through all your artifacts that you graciously let me have to copy stuff. Was there's one picture here of him coming out of the woods where there was a cave where the Jewish family was.
We went to the hospital where he'd stayed for, I don't know, 6 weeks, maybe, something like that.
A couple months.
And we went to the courtyard where he got there, and then he went to the hospital in Bratislava, which was 30 miles away, I think, from Pezinok, is the city that he went down in. Then we went out to the field, and the mayor of that town, 10 o'clock in the morning, they had it was like a holiday for the town because Allen Wisner was there. They gave Dad a plaque, and they did that 2 different times.
Yeah.
Well, at that town, and then at a different town in a castle, they threw a dinner for us and honored Dad. It was the media, the local television stations were there doing Dad. What was your story? Had an interpreter. So it was a really big deal for those people to have Dad back
there was
there.
another picture I saw that your dad was actually out in the field with a metal detector.
That was
and
where.
they dug up some pieces.
Yep,
he was there.
That was in the where we found some. I have shell casings that came from his plane. I have them here, and he had some, and we've passed them on. So our next, our nephew is really interested in the planes, so we've given them some of that stuff. But then we went to Trenchine because he went to that town. When we met people there, and I don't remember too much about what happened in Trenchine, but he got moved when the Germans were closing in to where he was in the hospital. They moved him to a different place, and then nothing happened, so they moved him back. And then the whole story of him getting out of the hospital. So and it took us. He knew that he had stayed in a town called Slavy. And there's no Slavy on the map in Slovakia. Nobody knew where it was. We went out and found the next little town down, about 2 miles down the road, and this town of Slavy was a farmhouse out in the country. That's where it was 2 miles from the nearest little burg with 30 people in it, and that's where the people in that farmhouse said they'd take Dad and hide him from November until. They didn't
April
when the war was done, but they didn't know that at the time. They took him in.
Right. He stayed there all that winter.
And in the story,
that man's name was Hubert Bezuchinski.
You remember that?
Yeah, my dad used to say that guy's name, Hubert Bezuchinski.
Took him in. That was
and his wife.
That was the mom and dad.
They owned that farm, and they took in Dad, and there was a doctor.
Dr. Koch.
And
was a Jewish
banker.
doctor, and there was a Jewish family that lived in Dad lived in the chicken coop of their house. That Jewish family, for the most part, that winter they lived in a bunker out in the woods. It was just a hole dug. We went out. We couldn't find. They didn't want to go. They didn't know exactly where it was. They said it's down that way somewhere. We went out and found the bunker that Dad had to go stay in. Like for 3 days when they thought the Germans were making a sweep and they thought they might come to that farm. Those people put their lives at risk.
Oh, they were horrified.
To have Dad in their chicken coop. They could have got shot.
They would have been shot if they found been caught.
If they found Allen Wisner and that they were hiding him.
They'd have shot Hubert Bezuchinski. Yeah, that's why.
They moved him out into. We went out there and it's just a hole in the ground. And then I thought, what's this? It's just a hole in the ground. And they put logs over it and then put boughs over it. And they said they had to be really careful in the winter if they came and went to the farmhouse to sweep the tracks away.
He brought that up in the video.
Yeah. And we did. I have a knife that we found in that bunker. So I don't know if that was his or somebody else may have stayed in that bunker. But yeah, So we got to go to all those places. And it was awesome. It was
so there's incredible. There's a ton of great stories here, but his the return trip for him, and of course his journey for over a year of hiding and moving around, and it's just an amazing story. So please make sure you check this out because you won't. Yeah, it's very moving. We'll move on here. I guess we're going to kind of wrap it up here. I'd like to do a little overview. The Wisners, you guys being from a proud Wisner family, Swiss-German family, what's your greatest satisfaction of being a member of your ancestors, all the way back from the 1700s who were, any
It was fantastic growing up on a farm.
Yeah.
I
had a great life.
We were poor urchins compared to what most kids are today, and even what city kids were then. We went to a country school, but we learned hard work, and we were proud of our family.
And like you say, with that story of us in the barn with hay bales and stuff, I remember that because I went out to my cousin's Blau's farm and we lived in that barn. Your parents would call you when it was dark and Or at noon you'd run into the house and grab a piece of bologna or a couple pieces of bread, and you were out of it.
Right,
You
we
were out doing
run with the
around.
neighbor kids. That's how we grew up. And
Well, it's just like you guys said in Mosley. You went into the old place and you were messing around with it.
that was with all the neighbor kids. We'd
Yeah.
egg each other on, maybe to do things we shouldn't have done sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, that we learned a good work ethic,
Yeah.
and Mom and Dad
Good.
grew us up to be people of faith, and that's.
Well,
that was-
all three of us come from good stock. The old
That-
Swiss stock German over there, we all
Sure was.
put in a good day of hard work. You could depend on us anyway. Well, I would like to thank Jerry and David for sharing their time here and stories today with the family and the amazing journey of their dad. You can enjoy these stories and many more at the Lowell Area Historical Museum. It's open from 1 to 4 on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You can also visit our website, lowellmuseum.org, to enjoy more oral history project stories as well as the ABCs of Lowell along Main Street and Letters Home. Projects dedicated to preserving and presenting the history of Lowell. Cheers. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.